the history say the remaining, and you know that. And today, talking about freedom and faith, this is important because in Galatians chapter 4, verse 4 says that God in a time hath prepared things. And it is when God prepares something to happen, it does happen because He doesn't want nothing to go for people to miss heaven because they don't have the right knowledge. When the fullness of time came, this word was for the gospel, and now again, in Martin Luther's time, it repeats itself when the fullness of time comes. Now we find Jesus, and I'm going to take the Bible, and you will see that I'm going to come in and go out, because I have some points over here that I want to touch, and so forth. But among the Jews who hear the word of Jesus, there were some disciples. There were the disciples that want to follow Jesus, and as Martin Luther, in the time of Martin Luther, there were some people that want to follow, but they really didn't want to get into the turmoil. Or Nicodemus in John chapter 4, when this man came at night time because he didn't want the Pharisees to go to see him during the day. And today we have people like that. They want to get close to God. They want to do that thing that they call religion, but they don't do it because maybe my family is not going to like me. Maybe my friend are not going to like me. And he says over here in verse 31, to the Jews who have believed Him, Jesus said, if you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And why Jesus is saying that? Because some people wanted to be the disciples, but really they don't want to know the truth. They just want to work with Jesus. Jesus was kind of very famous at the time, and people were following Him. And they wanted to learn about Jesus, but they were not true disciples. Because if you are a true disciple, then you need to know the Word. Pastor, what is the Word? Well, if you go to John chapter 1, verse 1 says, in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God. And the Word was God. Meaning that God, the Father, used the Word to create the universe, the invisible and the visible. And now that Word came to the world. And it was there. And Jesus was telling them, you need to be in the Word. I said a few weeks back that when we use the term world, it has two meanings. We have the world that is the creation, nature, where we see how beautiful it is. And then we have the world that sometimes Jesus used for people that were doing bad and evil and wicked things. So when Jesus is saying, you know, the world would call your attention, what He's saying is, you know, the wicked things, the bad thing, the evil thing is going to call you to do it. But if you follow the Word, that is Jesus, and nobody else. See, that's why Luther got upset. Because many people didn't have money. But they still were paid to go to heaven. And some people that were smart, they were getting rich, getting that money to build buildings. Meanwhile, there were some priests in some of the areas that were very poor. And they didn't have the money, and they didn't have the resources. But when you have the Word of God, you might not have money, but you have hope. You might not have money, but you have love. You have understanding, and you can go forward because you are a true disciple of Christ. Do not make any mistake. You are a true disciple of Christ. Do not make a mistake, because every Sunday, every single day you wake up and you give thanks to God because you know God. And when you know God, that's what you do. You're happy to come to church to give to God everything that is inside you. Because you understand that He protects you. Recently when my wife had an accident, I have this person that came to the hospital, and this lady, she was a nurse. And she said that she was behind my wife, and she saw this car going one and another time, and she said, oh my God, this person got killed. And she got out of the car, went, and suddenly she saw the person, and the person was still alive and breathing. Amen. But when she came to the hospital, she was talking to me, she was saying, I just don't understand one thing. Normally, when a car, bounce like that, and go that way, normally the roof goes down. And in this time, the roof went up. And I said to her, that is very simple. She looked at me, she looked at me like that way. That's very simple. See, my wife was not by herself in there. The angels of God were with her. And they put the arm, the hands, so the roof couldn't come down. Because otherwise, she wouldn't be counting that today. She wouldn't be counting her blessing in earth. She wouldn't be with God, but she wouldn't be counting her blessings. She didn't broke her neck or her legs or nothing like that. It's a blessing when you know every single morning that God will do His will in your life. And by that, we know who are the true disciples. And this is what happened over here. Many people believe in Him. But they believe in Him. It's like this, the person that went and threw the seed. And some of the seed went into the right soil, but some of the seed went into the side of the street where there was a lot of rock. And they grew, but they didn't have root deep enough to keep growing, to give fruit. And that's what happens with some of people. They get excited that they hear the word. They get excited that we're singing hymns or praise and worship and all of those things. But when bad time comes, when illness comes, when bad finances comes, when everything is thrown against them, they die out. They die out because they don't have the true belief in their heart. But Jesus said, if you know the word will set you free. Amen. Incredible. Now, here's the problem. The other problem is that the Jewish people, they were very proud. And realistic, I never have seen more proud people than the Lutherans. You know? They're proud of their belief. They're proud of their church. Look, Messiah, still standing. You know, it's because God used proud in a good and powerful way. But the Jewish people were proud, and let me clear this up too. When the Bible talks about Jews or Jewish people, and Jesus referred to the Jews, there's two ways to understand that. The first way is the culture. And Jesus is not talking about the culture. I want you to understand that. Jesus didn't discriminate, like many people say, against the Jew people, because he was Jew. But when he's saying the Jew, what he's saying is the religious people, the Pharisees, the scribes, all those people that were against him, trying to kill him. And he knows that these people, many of these people over here that were following him were not believers. They didn't believe in him. Yeah, we have a lot of people in churches, and they said that they're Christian, but they are really not believing in Christ. They just go to church for whatever reason might be. And Jesus found many people in his time doing the same thing. And Jesus is talking and said, if you are a true believer, the truth is going to set you free. Now, the Jews, not the culture, but the religious people, making this clear, you know, he said, we are not slave of nobody. How ironic. That they're not slave. Rome was the power. They couldn't go against Rome, and people tried to do it and they got killed. Alright? And they're saying to Jesus that they're not slave. Now, they're clear in one thing, and I want you to be clear in this thing too. Somebody can be a slave but be free because knows the word. Recently, I heard this guy that went to jail. And he said, All my life, I was a slave to money, drugs, and so many things. I go to jail, and I have an encounter with Christ. Christ touched my heart. His grace came over my life, and now, for the first time in my life, being over 40 years old, I'm free in jail. See, freedom is what is in your heart. And nobody can change that. And if the Jew knew something, or they might be talking about something, it was that. That though Rome was took over of their culture, took over of themselves, or their politics and so forth, inside their hearts, they were following the law. And for them, they were free. Now, at the time, the law had made them slaves too. And Jesus was presenting the word that can make them free. Today, if we want to change the world, we need to bring Jesus to our communities. We have to get in touch with our community. We have to get in touch with our politicians. We have to get in touch with our school. Easy to say, hard to do it. But if we keep sitting down, we might not be able to do it. Jesus, if you understand, Jesus was always walking, was always preaching, was always saying something that can build the heart of people, because He wanted to bring freedom to them. Jesus said to them, I know you are Abraham's descendant, yet you are ready to kill me because you have no room for my word. They were not free at all. They might thought that they were free, but they wanted to kill Jesus. But Jesus was offering something so profound. And He said to them, so if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. Listen, with all the respect, nobody can set you free but the only Son of God. He's the only one. There's no money. Listen, elections are coming around. Not in the Republicans, not in the Democrats will bring peace to your life or freedom. Just Jesus Christ. There's not a religion person in any religion that can set you free. But this word can set you free. The freedom of God is found in the Son. God incarnated. 100% God, 100% man. He was powerful. Listen, it's funny to me that when they came to arrest Him, poor Peter took his sword out to go against the Romans. And Jesus said to him, little Peter, don't worry about this. If I wanted to, I will call my Father to send legions of angels. And that will be finished right there. Alright? But He needed to complete His purpose that He was sent for. He was incarnated. He was holy. He was the only one. And He died and He sacrificed at the cross, make you and make me free. But He didn't stay there. He rose from the dead. And He didn't stay there neither. He ascended to His Father. And all power and all authority was given to Him. And that's why we are free. Is the Son set you free? You are free indeed. God bless you.